So we're excited to get started. Because of traffic and everything else, we're running a little bit behind. So we're going to skip our regulatory panel, and we're actually going to get right into the pitches. So I'm going to kick it off. Kyle Hasman is going to moderate with me today, one of the other partners from BX3 Capital. The two of us will be up here moderating. But first, our first pitch today, I want to introduce Blockdrop, revolutionizing the way that legal work is done in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Jeff Knight is here to pitch that one for us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. All right. Thank you. Hi, can everyone hear me okay? Yes. All right, excellent. Good morning. So just hearing those remarks, I was reminded that there are different categories of sort of value that we can see in these projects at these events. So the way he described it, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but something like truly terrible. And so the box I'm trying to, where I'm trying to get with you today is just sort of outside of that box. I just like to not be characterized in that field of truly terrible. If we end things and you're like, that didn't fit that way, I think that's a plus. I'm the founder, with that, I'm the founder and president of Blockdrop. Blockdrop is the first legal tech resource exclusively for the blockchain space. And so we provide resources that are updated alongside, document resources that are updated alongside changes in the law in the US. And we do that for corporate in-house departments as well as law firms of all sizes. Okay. Well, we may not have the benefit of that video after all.
Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, it is on YouTube. Sorry, I didn't realize it wasn't connected.
Blockchain, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, distributed ledger technology. This disruptive space has taken global spotlight, and lawyers are taking notice. With all the pressure on lawyers, the so-called gatekeepers, firms need ready access to reliable resources to service the blockchain space. But how do firms accelerate their access? Blockdrop. Your hedge fund client calls. Bob, I would like to set up a crypto fund. Can you do it? And what are you going to charge me? Bob responds, well, sure. We should be able to figure that out. How can lawyers competently service this space? Your corporate client wants to invest in an STO or form a new blockchain company. Your mainstream VC client wants to invest in a blockchain startup, but how? Blockdrop. So how does it work? Easy. Log on our platform, open your document, fill out or review, export to Word or PDF, and done. Our resources are curated by respected industry lawyers, and the technology is designed with lawyers in mind. Blockdrop.
So that's our quick video. I'm just going to kind of navigate us back to the PowerPoint, but as I'm doing it, be remiss not to mention that my background is as a lawyer. So I was a corporate lawyer for several years, and the past couple of years working particularly in the blockchain space. So this company and our platform represents me solving my own entrepreneurial problem. It's very intimate for me. So many days I'd be lamenting trying to work through a lot of the great innovative ideas that probably some of the other people here at the conference are pitching today. and figuring out the legal landscape and how do we navigate that for these types of people, these ideas. And in order to do that, lawyers have been suffering through, I think, a very difficult regulatory landscape with uncertainty. And on top of that, the regulators are saying, using this gatekeeper language and reminding lawyers that, the pressure is on us, it's not just on the issuers themselves. And so I think people often forget that lawyers are in this very tough situation and there really aren't any resources for them to be able to navigate it. And so that's where we come in. So, the background information we provide here, which you're all familiar with, is crypto and blockchain has taken up center stage, obviously, in recent years, and particularly in the last 12 months. The inflow of traffic is expected still to grow exponentially. The problem, which I just described, is that practitioners lack access to reliable, industry-focused document resources to service the blockchain space. Our solution is that while lawyers are still interested to take on these engagements, they're either being asked by, as the video said, their mainstream VC clients, some of the folks in this room perhaps, to be able to invest in the space, but also to develop blockchain companies. How do they do that in a competent way, and they do that reliably, not just now with the static resources, with the current snapshot of what the regulations look like, and on the state level as well, with all the money transmitter licenses, but also really the treachery is moving forward. The next 6 to 18 months, what is that going to look like in terms of regulations? What is that going to look like in terms of market terms and standards of practice? And so to set those for lawyers and to continue to update them on a web-based platform is great value. So the solution is providing that to them. The resources that we have, these are an example of some of the resources we have initially on our platform. And we did launch recently at ILTA, which is the largest, ILTACon, which is the largest legal tech conference in the US. So we got in front of, AM 100, as well as global firms. And, we're very excited to be rolling out already with a global firm. And also have subscribers like BX3. We're very excited to offer resources like crypto fund formation documents that you see here. So how to set up a hedge fund for the crypto space. Thinking about Andreessen Horowitz, I know, has set up their own crypto fund, was publicized somewhat recently. Ico Mitigation. So this is a toolbox for lawyers to be able to service the industry. A lot of lawyers like myself would get phone calls from their clients or new clients, prospective clients, saying, hey, I accepted $30 million and we didn't do any KYC. Is that a problem? We've set up a platform, but we don't have a contract with our cryptographers. Is that going to be an issue for us? Can you help us with that? And so just like the video, you said, you heard the sort of animated character say, yeah, I think we can handle that. And so there's been lawyers at all size firms, that are dealing with this, and all the way up to Magic Circle firms. And there really isn't a reliable set of resources yet in the industry until us. And so we are all industry focused. And so everything from AML policy templates to practice guides, drafting tips, checklists, workflows, all focused on the blockchain space. So Ico Mitigation helps with corporate formation documents, an operating agreement that describes how digital assets are stored. Security token offering documents were just received recently by our editorial board, so we're loading those on our platform, we're coding them in. And so this is obviously all the buzz. STOs, I think the vision is that it's the future of how cryptocurrency will be received in the US. And so we provide the documents necessary for lawyers to be able to develop STOs competently and reliably. Digital asset exchange, so that all the documents that one would need to be able to set up an exchange in the US, from ATS broker-dealer registration to hot wallet procedures. And then in the future, we move into different areas. So we just developed a legal dictionary for blockchain. It's over 50 legal definitions that lawyers can turn to, sort of a glossary of term dropdown within our platform. And if anyone would like a private demo to sort of see how some of these things work on our platform, it is live. It has been live for 2 weeks, so I'm happy to share that at some point. Looking at Article 9, we just were fortunate to add an advisor to our board from Greenberg Traurig, which I should mention about our board. Just like me being a former lawyer, we have a lot of lawyers on our board, former federal regulators, Harvard law professors. And so we hope to reflect the high watermark for the industry. We're just not some individuals that saw a need and don't have any experience in the space. We reflect the high watermark. So an attorney from Greenberg is actually very interested in helping me and our team to develop Article 9 materials, which relates to collateralizing cryptocurrency. So things like promissory notes is something that the financial industry, particularly banking industry, is very interested to understand better. And you get into areas like estate planning, litigation, tax. Really, the opportunities are endless. There's a canvas for blockchain in every practice group, and so we're there to help color that. The value proposition for us is as a SaaS model, and so our clients are, as I mentioned, practitioners. So by not being essentially B2C, by being a B2B product, we avoid the UPL issues, which are unauthorized practice of law. So in that way, as people might attempt to compare, we're really not like a LegalZoom. First of all, for us, it's really important about who are the ones that stand behind our documents, and the fact that the recipients are expert practitioners, licensed professionals. We employ a traditional monthly annualized subscription model, and so our pricing is based on, our pricing is not public, so we're flexible early on to be able to get that wide-scale adoption and make sure that it fits within every size organization's budget. But the way that our model works is that it's a monthly fee, annualized, and a one-time setup fee for the licensing. And our resources are updated alongside all of the different areas of law. So as we complete our funding round, the idea is that we'll have full-time content editors in addition to our sort of governing editorial board to oversee the process. And it works similar to the major legal tech players that we see in the market, Westlaw and Lexis. There's a combination of internal and external. There are contributors. If there's something that's very niche or something that's very attractive to our subscribers, and it's not something we have the bandwidth for internally, then we would find that material and make sure it's available on our site. But I will say all the material we have is copyright registered and it belongs to us. So the go-to-market strategy since our launch 2 weeks ago has been to focus on both the private practice and also in-house counsel. And so looking at the smaller firms, I think that mid-sized firm area in terms of the sales cycle is really the greatest opportunity for us because they do have the budget. They are interested in the exposure of the firm as a blockchain firm, as a crypto firm, that they have the bandwidth, they have the expertise, they have the budget, and the sales cycle is a lot shorter than the global firms. And so the global firm level, to be quite candid, we're looking more at proof of concepts, where we get through a month to 2 months of a proof of concept, and then you're looking at a revenue model. The marketing channels for us are sort of traditional marketing that we see today. These are things that we've already started employing with very good success. Looking at partnerships with bar associations, BX3 is a great partner for us. We have financial industry consultants like regulatory consultants like BMS, and then industry players like crypto collectives. So looking directly into the crypto and blockchain industry, we have a blockchain consulting firm, Symmetry. So these partnerships are very important, and influencers through social media. After we raise the rest of our round, we're looking at more of a cross-channel remarketing campaign and then traditional ad spends. This gives you an overview of some of the marketing outreach we've done already. I think given that this is an intra-industry ask, that the communication is happening like from practitioner to practitioner, I think you're seeing an extremely differentiated response rate than in a typical commercial kind of arm's length transaction. For us, the reach out has been very well received. And so, as though I'm just writing to a colleague, and I think we've been very well received by the industry that, we're looking to provide high quality documents for them. I know if everybody's probably keeping up with the news at its rapid pace, just recently, just yesterday, I believe, there was some federal regulatory actions that were first of its kind for the digital asset space, and they were taken against 2 companies. And I think I was hoping that we would hear today earlier with the panel about regulatory compliance, because this was it's fresh news, and it's interesting how it really underscores the need for our resources. And so that's been a big, just in the last 24 to 48 hours, if you look at our site, our website, and also our social media has received a lot more traffic. This was our Times Square post with BX3 for our new partnership. And so we've already started, I think doing some considerable marketing. These are the projections, and I hope you can see them on the larger screens. They're on my computer screen, they're a little micro. But this gives you a size for just the core market of law firms of 50 lawyers or more. And looking at, there are 15,000 firms in the US of 50 lawyers or more. Our pricing model scales from around $1,500 to $4,500 a month, depending on the size. So it plateaus at 800 plus lawyers. So a lot of the global firms, a lot of the AM 100 that we're going to their office and pitching them. The idea is that if we can capture this portion of the market, that's the capital within the first 12 months that we'll be looking at raising. That's the revenue, rather. So these are some of our early strategic partnerships I just mentioned. And our leadership, I'm Jeff. Alex Pistelnik works at Columbia University. He's responsible for their technology for their medical center. He's our CTO. Carl is a former DLA, so we have former Skadden, former Cravath, former DLA, former Mintz is on our board. As I mentioned, federal regulators. So we hope the purpose is that we are received by the legal industry. It's very important for lawyers. You can imagine your tool as a lawyer. A baseball player is they've got their bats and balls and the uniform. And for lawyers, we have our documents. That's our deliverable. That represents who we are as a firm, sort of channeling them. And I think that it's super important that they trust. It's a very intimate item, so they have to trust the source. This is sort of a representation, visual representation of our board of advisors. This is a list of some of them. So Charles Nesson is the founder of the Berkman Center for the Internet at Harvard Law. He's a sort of internet law god. He's very passionate about this project. And so fellows for the Berkman Center are people like Patrick Merck at Cooley. And so there's ties across the world, which really helps us to be able to make early relationships and make meaningful relationships and introductions. And the rest of the members of our board have been really crucial for us. Some of these are very recent additions. Brian from BX3, we're really excited to have. He's a really excellent member of our advisory board, a very impressive lawyer in his own right. Former Mintz, former Sidley, I believe, Brian? Simpson, right. And, and so we also have some industry members. Michael Wagner from Toke's Platform. It's one of the first cannabis crypto projects, very interesting. And early subscribers. So since our launch 2 weeks ago, we're rolling out with Reed Smith, which we're working on some success criteria, which we're pretty excited about, and companies like BX3. So looking at everyone from small in-house departments for boutique advisory firms to global law firms. And so for the funding, so what's the ask? What are we here for? What we're raising an angel seed round of $1 million, and so we've received commitments for 430,000. Of that, we received 300. So we're still waiting for 130,000 to come in, but for the time being, we're looking for another 570. So the investment structure that we're using is safe. So our lawyers are at Oric, and so they're helping us with essentially the structure of the investments. And so we're taking investments of 25,000 to 500,000 for this project. And so if we go Series A, that would happen around mid-2019. And this describes some of the potential exits as we see it. Companies like Wolters Kluwer, Thomson Reuters. I know Thomson Reuters took recently PLC, and there's been some really exciting projects also that Wolters Kluwer has grabbed up. We're working on an integration with iManage, and so I think companies like that also become very interested in what we're doing. Hot Docs and Wealth Council is a similar model for estate planning documents, so they're like the high watermark for estate planning, but not industry focused. They're sort of industry agnostic. But I think companies like that too will sort of have interest in what we're doing. And that's it. Thank you.
So these are all designed to be interactive. So any questions that you have for Jeff?
It's US only?
Yes. So the idea is that US is sort of like a proof of concept here, and then we can expand out to other countries. Some of our members of our board are in other countries, so we have a member in Switzerland. So those crypto-friendly jurisdictions like Malta, Switzerland, even the Caymans have had calls with lawyers there as well. They're very interested and want to know when we start to provide resources for those countries as well. And so that's the idea. Once we've sort of proven concept here in the US, we'd be able to adopt this same or a similar model. Pricing may change based on the culture in that country, business culture, and how things work. But looking at other countries, Australia is another one that's very interested in what we're doing. We'll be talking to Brave New Coin there. And yeah, so definitely opportunities in other countries, and we are interested in that.
In terms of using the funds, is this to build more technology or just working capital? What's the
Yeah, so the work, definitely working capital. Just looking at our expenses on a monthly basis to be able to maintain the business development that we want and grow it. So having salespeople that are focused on different channels. Obviously, in a small pitch environment like this, I'm not going to be able to get to every idea that the company has, but I think this is definitely a model that we want to have salespeople that are able to focus on different channels of the client base. And so having salespeople, having account representatives, and then maintaining and further developing our technology. So looking at functionality as we receive feedback, and in a demo environment, I can sort of show you some of the interesting feedback. Some people would like to ask whether we're really a technology company or a content company. And once you see our demo, within the first 2 minutes, you realize that we're certainly a technology company. The technology in and of itself is cutting edge and reflects what the legal industry is asking for in terms of functionality for document automation. So we've had global firm come to us and say, hey, this is really, really neat. This is great for blockchain and crypto for what you're doing, but we could also see this just automating all of our documents. And so I think that it's definitely attractive for that as well.
Jeff, who are the competitors on something like this? Is LegalZoom in the market? Are they developing stuff in the background, BIS filings? Are these potentially kind of coming up with a comparable idea at a big bank?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So one of the intriguing things about what we're doing is that we're first to market. So there is no competition right now. There's about 18 to 20 document automation companies, at least that are centric to the US, that comprise about 80% of the market, and none of them have any document resources that relate to blockchain or cryptocurrency. I think one of the natural sort of barriers that we have to competition is the difficult regulatory landscape right now. I think that it's not particularly attractive to dip your toe into, as a company like that, to dip your toe into the blockchain or crypto space, although there's a lot of interest because, frankly, they wouldn't know how to navigate it. It's a very complex area. And so if law firms are fumbling with it themselves, then it's sort of difficult to be able to attract, the right talent, or to be able to find the resources to be able to develop that and feel confident enough about it to put it out in public. So we've been very fortunate that we've been able to find people who have a volume of experience in this. So Joshua Clayman, if anyone's familiar with Joshua Clayman, she's very excited about this project, so she's involved with us as well. And so the idea is that we've been able to put together the right team of people that understand how to develop these documents. And so we also have, a great connection to the heart of the industry that will allow us to get in front of the future of the industry. So that's how we were able to develop the STO documents so quickly and the exchange documents so quickly, and looking forward to collateralizing, looking at Article 9 materials and estate planning materials and other areas, is because we have connections to the industry. We're either in it or we were in it. And so that gives us a better edge to be able to get in front of it. So I think hopefully that answers the question. Thank you. Yes.
So with this industry, how everything changes so frequently, how are you planning to manage those constant updates, manage it for maybe files that are already in progress and have been started, and there's changes that come down on the regulatory landscape? How are you going to manage those with notifications to your practitioners?
Right, so we operate with an email notification from a practical standpoint. We provide if you opt into emails as a subscriber, you'll receive an email notification when a document's been updated. So that'll be an indication to the subscriber that they should stop using that document and come back on our platform. We also have a signal by the document. So in the demo, it's sort of easier to show you this visually, but we have a signal next to the document to indicate that it's been updated within a certain period of time. To your point about the practicality of our ability to keep up and scale, with those changes, that's really the value proposition of what we're doing. If the industry were more slow moving, I don't think the value would be as clear, because I think that the legacy subscription to us, you could certainly, like a lot of document automation, we could probably ask Brian or other former lawyers like myself. Embarrassingly, firms will subscribe to products. They'll load all the documents off. You have the resources if there's something attractive, and then you unsubscribe. So for us, it's like, sure, take our resources. They have a very short shelf life. And so that's a natural protection to not only competition, because competition is going to know fairly quickly what you're doing as far as documents, but it's such a quickly, as you said, it's such a quickly moving industry. That's really, truly the value of the legacy, the value proposition for the legacy subscriber is that they're getting immediate access. And to your question of how do we do that, that's sort of our secret sauce, but I think it's fairly transparent that it's by having industry people involved in our process very intimately. So it's hiring or contracting with the right people that have the right sense of what's going on and to be immediately on it. So I left the practice of law to focus on this endeavor. And so, yeah, do you have a follow-up?
Well, yeah, also that things aren't always cut and dry. It's not always black and white, that this is the right way to do it, this is not the right way to do it. And, you know, how do you work through those kind of gray areas in the law for, like, you know, best practices or best standards? You know, I can imagine, I know some of the people are on your board, and I can imagine them having differing opinions, because I've heard them state differing opinions.
Right.
From like Mark Haynes to, you know, Joshua.
Right, and so fortunately, we didn't write the blueprint for this type of a business. It's just the color that we're putting on the canvas that's different. So, you know, we pose the same questions to companies like Westlaw, LexisNexis, and every document automation company that exists, or document assembly company. But particularly, you're right, it finds a difficult, it's a difficult use case here with blockchain and crypto because of that difficulty. So I think that makes the job, it's a good question, it's a great question. I think it makes the job more challenging. I think we have to be especially careful or thoughtful about the nature of the documents that we're providing. So perhaps if there is a less clear answer to a question, we would not go with a template, and we may look at more like drafting tips, and we'd be clear in the italicized drafting tips that say there are multiple theories or thoughts on this process. And I think the other protection to that risk is that we're not selling to the public. And so we're selling to a sophisticated practitioner who fortunately will have the, you know, the expertise to know, you know, they'll know to know better than to just, you know, take something at face value. It's really meant to be a resource. So if we look at that as 80-20 or 70-30, the idea is we want to try to accelerate their access to resources and at least get them thinking about these things. So if the biggest problem they have is that they've got to figure out whether to take super sophisticated thought process A or B through D, that's a great problem to have. It's better than not understanding what hash rates are or gas or fork. So, I mean, we become initially an educational resource, and we provide access to an industry that, for many, it's polarizing. I mean, it's a generational issue in the legal industry as well. You have a lot of people that are very dismissive of this space. It's all fraud. And the reason is because they don't understand it. And some of them tie their exit from a career with the entrance of a new technology. And we've got to break that down. So we think that we become a helpful tool for law firms in that way, to be an institutional resource. Because when you have a Joshua or someone else, and they leave a firm like MoFo, that's a personnel, that's resource that leaves. That doesn't stay at MoFo. Certainly she's done incredible things, and I'm sure they still retain a lot of that, a lot of that wisdom through what she's left at the firm. But largely, when you see lateral hiring in law firms, we understand the industry, and we want to be a resource that stays with the firm. So we think that hopefully that answers your question.
You had one as well. Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to know, what are you guys doing to build community, one? And then for PR exposure, what are you guys doing? And are the funds that you're getting in this round going to be allocated for any of that? Is there any upcoming rounds that will be allocated?
Yeah, that's super important. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, like on social media. I mean, we all hear the stories about how Twitter, like ironically, is one of the biggest like think tank for the industry. And I think that we have to be very careful about what we put out there. And so that's why we brought in a chief marketing officer who has experience, a very niche experience in developing a community for lawyers that are interested in the blockchain space. His name's Leo Kangan, and he was one of the first event organizers that's centric to blockchain for lawyers. So he developed the Crypto Law Summit in LA, which went to NYU, and so he's with us as CMO. And so developing, just as a starting point, his own resources. He has a tremendous amount of goodwill that he's built up in the legal industry, but also understands how to start messaging in the space. But we have to be very careful, you're right. And the idea is we want to add something. It shouldn't take a subscription and handing over a credit card to get access to the value of the, the thoughts in the space and what's the right direction. So thinking about traditional things like blog posts and making sure we're putting the right messaging out there to give guidance to say, these are things that practitioners should start looking at. Hey, just so you know, this is something that just came up yesterday. It's a big, first of its kind regulatory action. I mean, yeah, so to your point, those things are definitely important. And yeah, those are things we plan to do.
Yeah, and funding wise, are you guys using any of those funds, and how is he being incentivized?
Right.
Currently, and then potentially in the future, if you can answer that.
Right. So we have one full-time employee who's our business development manager, and then Leo is on a contract with us, so he gets paid for his time. he's also receiving stock options. So initially, yeah, you saw a long list of advisors, so we have a pretty robust stock option plan, and we want to incentivize people to contribute to the company that way. And early on, bootstrapped, as a lot of startups are, that's how we've been able to compensate to get so many great people involved in our project.
Yeah.
So having the CTO that we have, having a project manager for technology, having a front-end developer that's done, you've probably seen a lot of the things on the demo, just really great front-end work on our platform. When you see that, you'll be very impressed. We've been able to attract those people and keep those people through using stock options. But I would like to pay them. But to your point, your question about how marketing is definitely a line item in our budget for sure. So that's how the money will be used: is business development, marketing.
Yeah. And that's in this round now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi, okay, so you guys become like the leading opinion now, like when you guys put it out and it's accepted and it's growing and it's growing. Do you see, I know it's the firms that are your subscribers, but do you see a scenario where companies, like maybe companies got, a lawyer in his contacts, and he does the subscription, it's a non-legal company, right, but he does the subscription in their crypto, and you're offering more than the local firms. Do you see that as a market?
Yeah, well, I think what I do see is that you sort of just stated really concisely the value proposition for in-house departments. So for corporations themselves, forget practicing law at a private firm, but just the company itself. There's been, and this is sort of my observation and the people on our team, but our observation has been that there's been a lot of angst by corporations that are an overdependence on outside counsel. And so if you can sort of keep them honest and also limit your dependence on them by having access to off-the-shelf resources, and this is not a new thing. So, name your Fortune 100 company, their in-house counsel have documents that are off-the-shelf documents. They're not contacting outside counsel. Sure, for the investigation or for the litigation or for a more complex deal or more robust deal, they are going to use outside counsel, and I wouldn't paint it with a broad brush. Every firm, every company has their own tolerance for how they balance that relationship depending on the size and experience of their in-house department. But I think what you just stated is a clear case for why corporations are so interested in what we're doing, not just law firms.
So you said you went live a couple weeks ago. Is there a beta going on?
Our platform is up and running.
Accepting subscribers?
Yes. It has subscribers and accepting more, yeah. Any questions? All right. Thank you very much. I do plan to stay for the rest of the day, so if you want to